Welcome to Blue Monday with me and Dave. We're calling it Toffee Thursday this week because a combination of some scheduling problems, the Southampton game, all got in the way, so we couldn't really record it until today. Hope no one minds. Dave, before we kick off, I'm going to do it slightly different this week. There's been a lot of moaning, and rightly so, about how bad Everton have been. I'm going to ask, maybe should we focus on the positives a little bit more? I'll get into that in a minute, but it's been an interesting week, hasn't it?
Yeah, I don't know how you're fitting positives into that sentence, to be honest with you. So I'm quite intrigued to see what you come out with now, Les, to be honest. But, yeah, it intrigues is probably the right word as well. If you don't focus purely on how atrocious it's been on the pitch, because the ownership thing keeps on lingering in the background, doesn't it? We've heard plenty about the new stadium. We've heard Sean Dyche's future in general, and who would be the person to sort that out if indeed he wanted them to go, or he just felt like he'd had enough anyway and left. How that would work out, how we'd need to get new owners in if that was potentially going to be the case. So, rather than completely be as down as it can be, given the way we are, I think there's been plenty of news as well that have been there for us to digest over.
Yeah, well, let's pick up on the new ground first of all, then, because we talked about that on last week's show. That is a massive positive. It's coming on well. I think the only thing is we're worried we're not going to be in the Premier League when we get there. I think that's the thing that's sort of concerning us all now. But as we said last week, it is coming on really well. It looks great. It's going to be amazing. So I don't know. We could lean into that a little bit more. After this week, I'm kind of looking forward more and more to getting into the new ground, because I'm feeling tired at Goodison. Not necessarily tired of it, but I'm feeling tired there. It feels a drain at the minute, doesn't it?
It does. It feels hard work, doesn't it, to go to Goodison? And obviously, that's to do with what we see on the pitch. I mean, we wouldn't be sitting here having that conversation had Everton gone and won the first 5 games of the season. I'm certain we'd be saying, "Oh, I don't really want to leave Goodison. We've got that new stadium, and I don't think we're going to be good enough." But you're so right about it, because it's funny you mention this, and not saying we've set this up with our listeners by any means, but I was shopping at Costco last night, and every single time we go there, like stock up for the month of food and drink or whatever, we always drive out, and I say go along the Dock Road. It's nowhere near the direction we need to go to get home, but I always say I need to see the new stadium. I always say that to my wife, I need to see the new stadium. And every single time I go, there's something new that I spot on it, or there's something new that I see, and I'm desperate. A couple of times I've tried to sneak into the car park, and it's just not possible at all to do that. So if anyone's thinking of doing so, it's just not going to work. Even if you turn up with a high vis and an that, they won't let you in. But driving past it, there's so many times when I've looked at it and think, oh, do you know what? That looks small. I think that's really when you've seen it on the drones and stuff like that. I've thought, oh, that doesn't look too big. But when you go past it, it's a sight to behold. And each time I look at it, I think I can't see it happening. And obviously it is, it's guaranteed now and all that, but I just can't visualize Everton playing a game on it. I can't visualize going into the stadium itself. And more importantly, maybe a little bit of sort of news-related thing that might affect people who listen to us. So I know they are about to release the fact how you're able to get your ticket, and it's going to be in the order of how long you've had your season ticket at Goodison, which seems logic.
Yeah.
I've had my season ticket now for 9 years, I think it is. Now, if you've got a season ticket, I spoke to the fan engagement team. They said you're guaranteed your ticket at Bramley Moore if you've got a season ticket. Simple as. We've got 25,000 at Goodison. I think they're going up to 35, 40,000 it may be at the new stadium. So obviously you're guaranteed one. The thing that's going to be the issue for many is where you want to pick your seat.
Mm-hmm.
The thing I've always had in my head over it, Les, is that, well, at the very, very worst, you are not going to have a bad seat at a brand new stadium. You're not going to have the obstructive view or anything like that. So obviously, but there'll still be a lot of issues that come about with all this. So if you pay your ticket via direct debit, which I have, so the premium credit is this is going off on a bit of a tangent here, Les, so do excuse me for saying this, but I think it's an important thing. So Premium Credit are the group that deal with that. You direct debit with the club. Now, each season, each of the last, I think I've been doing it for like 5 years, getting it on a direct debit payment. Twice I've been rejected by Premium Credit, even the fact that I've stayed paying for my season ticket. So you can imagine some of the conversations I've had with this place when I've called them, absolutely fuming, what's left of my hair coming out of me and all this sort of thing to get on the direct debit. And you can get like 9 months, 10 months. People, I'm telling people what they probably know here, but this particular season, they rejected me. And I rang the club and I said, what's going on here? I said, it's obviously not credit based because I've never stopped paying for my season ticket. So they were like, oh, the club are crap, basically. And I feel sorry for the people that work for them because obviously they've been given instructions on how to address these issues. And they said to me, well, you need to contact them, the credit company who deal with the club. So having contacted them, they've said that I've been rejected. This happened a couple of years ago as well. So at that time, I got my sister-in-law to have to get my ticket
I
for
remember
me.
you telling us about this,
This season, I've had to get Haley, my wife, to do so. Now, the issue I've had with this and the real paranoia I've had with this is thinking, well, because it's in their name, does that reject all of my years that I should have into the season ticket, therefore meaning that the years don't count towards where I am up the queue to get my new ticket at Bramley Moor. And I'm keen to know if anybody's had this sort of issue or any sort of issue really going on with what the potentially, I mean, it hasn't been officially announced what the club's going to do, but I think it's pretty certain that it's going to be, you're in a queue of how long you've had your season ticket. So I contacted the club and they got back to me and said, well, no, you've only had 5 years. We've got in your account number, you've had your season ticket for 5 years because the other ones you've had to get through your relatives. So I was absolutely fuming about this. Not least because I'm probably contradicting what I said at the start there, Les, where I said you're not going to have a bad seat, but I still like to choose where I want to go. I don't want to go in the last person and have that last seat there. A lot of people want to go and sit by friends and other people they've gone with. I'm pretty sure that's going to be a massive issue for many. So I said to the club, how's this fair at all when a place that that certainly isn't associated with me, is only associated with the club based on people getting direct debits for their tickets. But yet, for some reason, you're not allowed, or some reason you get rejected by them. And that means that it affects what you've got on your list of years that you've had with your season ticket. So I kept on contacting the guy I spoke to. His name's Joe. He might well be listening, Joe, on the season ticket team at the club, and he was really nice about it. And he said, well, let me try and investigate this. So when my wife's gone and got her new ticket number, you obviously got number, haven't you? And I've got one myself. She's got the season ticket on her number, and I haven't anymore. So in official, what it looks like at Everton, if I went online, it doesn't look like I've got a season ticket, but my wife has, right? I have a different number, obviously. She has a different number. And I said, well, how is this going to work then? I said, because the thing that looks really funny here is, if we keep on swapping over the last couple of years that they've done it and rejected me at Premium Credit or whoever, that season ticket seat, my seat in the main stand, has been going back and forth on two different people. So how's that going to look when you're giving that out? So the guy said to me, he went to the management and he said, we can assure you that your 9 years is going to count. Right. He said, but he went, thanks for notifying this because this could be a problem for several people.
Yeah, definitely.
And I just wanted to give, like I said, I'm just going off on a tangent there, but it just reminded me of it. Every time I drive past there, I always think, oh, where do I want to sit? And I think that's that's a nice feeling everyone's got, haven't they? When we go there, you think, what area of the ground do I want? Where do I want my seat? Is it going to be high? Is it going to be like wherever? How many times you've been able to do, even it's only been in years gone by, you've been able to swap tickets, you swap your seats, aren't you?
You'll never be able to do that now.
No, absolutely not. Not with waiting lists and all that sort of thing. So with the being waiting lists, it's important as it is. But I just hope it's not a sign of what's to come in terms of concerns and all that. You know,
Yeah, that is useful to know because, like, I mean, people might be going through the same thing because, as you say, you know, if this is like a premium credits, like a third party company with their own
yeah,
sort of credit scoring system, along with normal credit ratings. Don't want to go too deep into this because it's a bit too much like the day job, but
personal information, isn't it? Well, yeah,
and and you know what I mean. It sometimes it can seem quite arbitrary, and you can get like pulled up for the slightest thing, and like, right, we're not giving you credit. I think it happened to me when I first tried to. I couldn't get it at first. And then eventually I could, and it was fine. But people might have this issue as well. So
yeah.
if anyone is listening or watching and they have, it's worth contacting the club about it and seeing what's
Yeah,
what.
massively so. Give us a shout as well, because I'm, more than happy to chat with people about it and stuff. The way in which we've hopefully addressed it, because I'm thinking when the stadium gets built, it's finished in what, 3 months' time.
Yeah,
I can imagine towards the end of the season that'll be when they start sort of initiating when people can get their tickets and whatnot. In this process, everyone's got
yeah.
to go through.
But
I just did it out of, like I say, I did it out of paranoia, thinking, do you know what? How is this going to count when it's quite obvious it's going to be through length of time? You've had your season ticket. Now there's going to be Blues there. The older Blues have had their season tickets for 50, 60 years, whatever it is. Rightly so, they're front of the queue. And you are guaranteed one, which I say, like, that might not even be a concern. But I think for many or most Everton fans, I would guess it's an issue where you actually want to get in there as soon as you can and
yeah,
pick where you want to sit. So I think it's well worth contacting the club. I hope that nice guy I spoke to now is not inundated with all sorts of messages, people kicking off about it. But it's definitely worth one considering, because, look, you want everything sorted 100% before you go and get your new seat in there, don't you?
yeah. And also, you don't want like any issues cropping up while you're trying to buy your ticket, and then the time's sort of ticking on, and you're
Yeah,
getting further and further down the queue because your thing isn't being resolved. So, defo resolve that before like the whole ticket allocation thing goes
yeah,
out.
yeah.
But on the seating thing, it is
Yeah, it
definitely
looks
like
shite inside, by the way.
what's that?
It looks shite inside.
It'll be great. It's gonna look mega.
It
Um,
is.
it is a once in a lifetime opportunity thing, this, isn't it? Not many people will get the chance to go through a brand new stadium and pick their own seats, you know, sort of. It's an opportunity for like a load of, like, if you don't sit by your family or your mates at the game, it's an opportunity whereby you can now do that. I think I said on a previous pod, like, I'm gonna really miss the people who sit around, and I sit around some like really good people, get on really well. There's no
Yeah,
knobheads around there. It's sound. The worry is that, you know, you don't know who you're going to get next to, but it is when you go to the new ground. But it is a good opportunity for people to sit together with, you know, people they haven't been able to in the past.
yeah,
So that's definitely something to look forward to, isn't it? It's some, you know, I've seen the ground from going past Sand towards Sandhills on the train, and I've seen it over our side. There's a great view from Seacombe
yeah.
over our side. It's like, it looks amazing with the river and the ground. The view's outstanding. And if you go to, what's the pub? Can't remember. There's a pub in Seacombe, and if you sit in the window there or go outside, you can see the new ground. You see the tin mine on the hill there, and Goodison just to the other side of it, and it just looks ridiculous that you can see the
Yeah.
three grounds together.
Yeah. That's the other thing as well. It's the legacy kind of thing, isn't it? And you talk about that. I think it's not something I've thought. I'll probably think about it a lot more as we approach and we get a lot closer to being able to go over there. But you think, like, in terms of, and the club obviously selling it great in terms of the history and the legacy stuff and all that, and all these little bits and pieces that they're sending us and nights we can go to and stuff like that. Being part of that first group of people that gets to go into a brand new stadium that's going to be there, you would think, for centuries, maybe, given how it's going to be built and how technology and how upgraded it is from everywhere else that you see these days. I can see people getting quite emotional over that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like the first people that went over to Goodison,
yeah,
in excess of a century ago. So it is something to definitely be excited about. No positives, what we want to sort of go into at the start of this. That being there, the Premier League club sounds silly, but shove it to one side for 5 minutes and have a think about where we're going to be this time next season in that ground. Just going to be so different. I mean,
yeah.
I can't imagine how it's going to be. in terms of songs, how the the way it echoes. That's all the sort of thing that they've really put everything into, isn't it? With Dan Mice, when he come in, he was talking about how the echo of the noise and everything, all that way. That's the thing that they've done to a T. How I am really interested how the club will go about this, because I think essentially many people would say, well, just move as much as Gladys Street as you can to one end of the ground and then just fill it in. That'd be something that I'd imagine thinking, well, then we've kept that atmosphere kind of thing. Like yourself saying, you want to sit by people who you've met only through the match, same as me. I have a lot of older fans in and around me who I've spoken to every single season. I doubt that I'll be sitting anywhere near them this time, and that's going to take us all a lot to get used to as well, to be honest with you. And look, everybody who gets a new stadium tends to have a bit of a curse with that, don't they? I remember when Arsenal went to the Emirates and they didn't win for about 15 games or something like that.
Well, yeah, this is a thing I've always worried about. There's inevitably a dip in form when you go to new ground, because it is so different. It's probably, for the first 2 seasons, it's probably like an away game for everyone. Yeah. So you don't have that sort of home advantage. And if you look at Arsenal, they had a dip, but they had a dip from a very high position. So I think they went from winning titles to just doing that European qualification thing, and now they're back on the up and the sort of in and around winning the titles. They've won a couple of FA Cups. Tottenham have remained relatively steady. Yeah. But then if you look at teams, but I think they were pretty stable, weren't they? They were very stable. They weren't bothering the title. They weren't bothering mid-table. They were pretty much in and around where they are, and they kind of stayed there. But if you look at teams like Middlesbrough, Derby, Coventry, they all got relegated not long after moving into the new grounds. I don't know if Derby got promoted in theirs or what, or Middlesbrough.
But also, Les, they made them look horrendous as well, by the way. I can't remember ever going to Borough and it being sold out. I've been to Borough away a couple of times. And the crowd, don't want to offend, well, I do want to offend Middlesbrough fans, because I can't really say it otherwise, but that just looked like it was shite because it was half empty. I think Derby's been the same. Coventry, I have a lot of sympathy with Coventry, given the issues they've had with that stadium. They were playing at Birmingham one year, they were playing at Northampton the other year, all because of that. Do you know what? That's the sort of thing that I started thinking about with us as well, given all the shit we've had off the pitch. Touch wood that it doesn't matter anyway that we've had those problems, because the stadium's there now and it's built. Yeah. It's not like you can give it up and give it to somebody else, is it? Hopefully, anyway.
Well, let's not go there. But I also think, just one last thing on the stadium. Walking up to Goodison now from wherever you're walking from, I think you don't necessarily see the ground first. You're walking through a load of houses, or the way we walk anyway, because we walk up from Kirkdale. You're basically walking through town, load of houses, and then you get to the bottom of the you get to County Road and you see up one of the roads and you can see the ground. This is going to be very different, isn't it? Because you're going to walk through those walls and it's just going to be nothing but the ground. I imagine it'll be like when you go to Old Trafford and there's nothing else there but the stadium. Yeah. And it looks huge when you're there then, doesn't it? Because you walk onto that concourse and all you've got is the stadium. There's no houses. There's nothing else to sort of get a reference point of, just this massive stadium. And that's quite exciting, I think. I think to walk up and just have the ground there on its own by the river, I can't wait. I think it's going to be great.
Location-wise is what they've absolutely nailed. I mean, I know there'll still be a lot of people who would... Well, I was devastated when we thought we were going to get where the Echo Arena is now. Yeah. That, to me, I thought we missed a massive opportunity. I think if you look at it now, I think we've struck lucky for where it's actually going now. Because definitely. you look getting in and around with that, it's quite compact, isn't it, to get where the Echo Arena is these days, because you've got the Albert Dock and all that. Like you rightly say, you go half a mile down the road to where we are now, it's bare around it. Yes, I'm sure over the years things are going to be built, and there's a lot of industrial estates around there as well, which I'm sure people will take advantage of business-wise. Yeah. But for that, it is something. You can imagine that against the dark sky as well. Do you know what I mean? It's going to look incredible. You imagine the photos our mate Laura's going to get with all of that. And I know she's doing an incredible job with the last few she's going to be getting at Goodison. the first couple of games there just going to be incredible. I can imagine I can imagine that first game we go to, people are just going to be hanging around there for like hours and days, all overnight and all that, getting as much as what they can, because there's going to be something there for everyone, isn't there? Something that, do you know what I mean?
It's going to be one of them where the club say, "Can you get there early?" and everyone will actually get there early for once.
That's it, yeah. Or something like that with like, oh, you'll have to wait, you'll have to come back later because we didn't expect this many people to come. When they should rightly expect as many people as they can to come.
Yeah. Oh no, it'll be great. So there's one positive. The next one's a little bit tenuous. So the positives for me so far are the new ground. It's going to be great. We should have new owners by then, which, you know, that could go either way. But we'll get someone running the club who knows what they're doing. The positives on the pitch I'm going to look at now, and this is where it slightly goes a little bit, I don't know, I'm trying to convince myself more than anything. So, like, the Bournemouth game, go back to that. As has been well documented, and we've all said, 80 minutes, we were sound. Best anyone's seen us play in a long time, it feels like. Villa, we go 2-0 up. Now, everyone thought there's no way we're hanging on to this 2-0 lead. You know, other teams have gone to Villa and done that. Other Everton teams have gone to Villa and done stuff like that. But we did go 2-0 up, and, you know, but for some bad finishing from Calvert-Lewin, we could have won that game 4-3. It's not just like they are two chances he should have scored. It's not even they were half chances and, you know, oh, had he scored that? It's like he was 1-on-1 twice and he should have scored both of them. If he does, we win that game 4-3, and things are very different. I'll go on to Southampton in the cup in a minute. The mitigating circumstances for that potentially are the injuries and illness to the squad. So let's put that to one side for a sec. Those two games, it's been a dreadful start to the season, no question. Was there enough in those two games to think there is something there with this squad and this manager can get it out of them? As I said, I think we're trying to convince myself as much as anything here, because all the signs are, I mean, if we take this in isolation, I know we've not won away in 2024. I think we've won 5 or 6 games in 27, something like that. The stats are bad, but Dice has sort of turned around bad form twice. Is there enough there for you to suggest that he could do? Just taking those 2 games in isolation. You can end it now and say no.
I've got sort of a twofold answer to this. I think he's got the squad that's perfectly reasonable to be able to do that. We've seen enough, I think, from particularly the last 2 games, that Everton have a decent team to be able to do what they need to do to stay in this league in a comfortable situation. I mean, I was saying that if we got to March, April time, we've guaranteed our safety in the Premier League, then it's party time. Go around the new stadium, you know, with your clothes off or whatever, celebrating. We're going to be moving in there as a top flight side. But I feel this is where it goes against them here, less, because we've had a lot of talk about would you get rid of him, and I put the questions out on Twitter after the Southampton game. I said, you know, if he loses against Leicester, is that it for him? The amount of people that came back to me and said, no, get rid now. You've got to get rid now. Going 4 games into a season, I think anybody who wasn't an Evertonian would be saying you're absolutely ludicrous doing that. You can't get rid of a manager 4 games into a season. I'm on the other side. I have to say, I think Everton should move on this. Should move on it pretty quickly. The ability, whether they can do or can't do, given what's going on boardroom level or whatnot, is a different question, isn't it? But I feel as if he's got enough there to be able to do what's required for Everton to be in a better position than what we have been in the last couple of seasons, and not have started the season losing the way in which we have now. The way in which we've lost those games as well, Les, the Bournemouth one and a Villa, what's done him has been the things that he's excelled at as a manager. That's the massive concern I have with Sean Dyche.
Yes.
He's meant to be an expert at solid stopping opposition scoring goals. What were we, the fourth best last season in terms of the lack of goals scored against us? That's his forte. That's what he's made his career as. That's what's kept Burnley in the Premier League the years that they were. That seems to be a massive issue that he can't quite get right here. Recently, last couple of seasons have been fine, as I've just explained there with last season's stat. If you can't do that here, I find myself questioning what else can Sean Dyche do.
Yeah.
And I can't come up with an answer of what else he can do. And that's sort of ironic because the way in which the team have gone about those last two games, particularly at Villa, again, I think that emphasises that it's there. Those lads, there's enough of a squad there to be able to create opportunities. You've got Ndiaye, who looks like a bag of tricks for us. You've got Calvert-Lewin, who looks like he's got a lot more concentration and his sort of his working ethic back in to where he was, whether that's because he wants to leave or not. By the by, it's just the fact that he does it for us. It doesn't really matter why he does it, but he does it.
Yeah.
You've got that happening. You've got Branthwaite to come back as well, which many people are absolutely itching for and treating him like he's the second coming or something like that. And, you've got Irabuna, who I think is going to be a top-class midfield player as well. He's looked great when we've seen him play. So there's a lot of positives in and around that squad. What's Sean Dyche doing to get it right? And that is the concern that I've got, Les. That's what I mean by being a sort of twofold answer here.
Yeah.
Team, squad, I'm pretty content with. Manager, I am massively concerned about.
Yeah, I think that's where I am as well. To be honest, I think this is definitely the best squad he's had since he's been here. Weirdly, and I think if you look at take the Bournemouth game, we've all said that was just a head loss from everybody involved when they pulled a goal back. Everyone lost it there. The players lost it. The manager lost it. Everyone lost it. Villa, it feels like the players were definitely playing to his game plan. Now he's got this thing about keeping your defence narrow and defending the box, which leaves basically you open to crosses coming in. So Luca Dean had loads of space all game. But that's basically the tactic. Because you're saying, okay, you can have the ball out there, and if you cross it in, my centre-backs are good enough to get rid of it. So that
he's trusting those two centre-backs, isn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, basically you're inviting the crosses in because you think my defence is good enough to get rid of all that. Now, obviously, they weren't, because that was it Ollie Watkins head of the first goal.
Yeah, well, it was when Keane didn't jump anywhere near Watkins, and even though he's about 3 foot bigger than him.
Yeah, so that's exactly that will have been his game plan for that. To say, that's fine, let him have the ball out there. He can't do anything out there. You can get the crossing and you can clear it. And that's the deficiency for me. Because, what's Luca Dean got? He can cross the ball really well. That's his thing.
We know him, more importantly, we know him for the years that he was with us.
Exactly. Defensively, not brilliant. Does a decent job, but not brilliant. But going forward, that lad can cross a ball. That wasn't even his best cross. That was a pretty shit cross, to be honest. The way it looped in, it should have been easy for a centre.
It was shit. It was that shit that Keane should have headed it, or Pickford couldn't cover. That's how bad it was to the back stick.
Yeah.
So that's what's getting. Sorry to interrupt, but that is what is getting to me, is that these are the things that Sean Dyche is good at. These are the things why we got him in. Set up defensively sound. The other end of the pitch we'll deal with later. Keep a clean sheet. That keeps Everton in the Premier League. That's as simple as that.
Yeah.
Sean Dyche is not getting that right at the moment, and that's a massive concern.
But is this why he will dig the players out in this situation? Because that's his game plan. That's the game plan he trusts. And if the players individually can't do it on the day, now maybe we'll see if we see difference at Leicester. Then he has looked at that and changed it and thought that isn't working. Maybe it's a personnel change. Maybe it's a tactical change where he gets the fullbacks out wide to block those crosses. We'll see against Leicester if he does that. But in his head, he might justify this and say, look, that's my game plan. That's what I've always played. They weren't good enough on the day to do it, and that's why we got beat. And this could be why he doesn't take responsibility for that, because he's like, I trust this game plan. The players just haven't carried it out. And so that's the sort of flip side, isn't it? Whereby it's like, I don't think he's done well enough at all this season. And basically this year, really, apart from that little run of games that kept us up. The 3 wins on the bounce were fantastic, don't get me wrong. But he's not done well enough over the course of this year to not be questioned, and questioned seriously about whether he can do this job. But I can see why he could say, well, that's my game plan. It's always worked for me. It's the players that can't do it. So the thing for me now is what will sort of prove whether he can do things differently and whether he could maybe do this job is if he changes stuff around on Saturday and we don't see a repeat of those goals. Again, it was like Bournemouth, wasn't it? The goals were exactly the same. They were coming in from crosses wide, which we invite, and they weren't dealing with it. So it's, if he didn't learn anything from Bournemouth to Villa, will he learn it to Leicester? If not, well, then there's nothing there, is there?
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point there that you've done. That's, for want of a better term, that's in his defence to say that.
Yeah.
Not to put too fine a point on a bit of a pun there, but I do feel that how has he not addressed that situation? And I understand managers coming out and saying we lost that because of that fella's fault. We lost that because of this. Like we've just indicated there, we've conceded the goal because Michael Keane's decided not to be able to jump.
Roberto Martinez did it, didn't he? It was the fine margins all the time with him.
Yeah, exactly. I think where he digs himself a bigger hole is, regardless of what he says post-match about defenders, regardless of any of that, I just go back to asking myself the question, what else have you got here, Sean? Because, yes, okay, you can blame the defence and all that, but what's the go-to thing about that? Try and score a goal. That's the problem I've got for him, is that if we concede first, I don't see Everton as a side who's going to go and win a game. No. When's the last time we've been behind and gone and won a game? I can't remember when that was. To be honest, I'm sure someone's going to rip me apart to say it was this week or something. But
no, I can't remember either.
We're not exactly the side that has the bounce back ability, are we? Do you know what I mean? We don't do that. So it's how predictable it is as well. The point that I made with Warren on the post match is, if you're Steve Cooper, who I think's a crap manager, who've somehow got the Leicester job when they've come up, what do you think the preparation is for him to know that Everton are coming to Leicester at the weekend? It's probably, obviously, it's vital for them because it feels like already it's a 6-point game, which I think it is, because you've got Leicester who probably go in and around a relegation fight. If you're him, what is there really to show your squad when you're sitting there with the tapes on and doing all the sort of, tactics and things like that? It's pretty obvious what Everton are going to do, and I credit Dyche for that being him. I credit him for never changing. But doing this early in the season, conceding 13 goals we've conceded in the Premier League so far this season.
Yeah,
you've got to do something else. And again, I repeat myself as I have a couple of times. This league will find you out.
Yeah,
we're not in it. We've fortunately been in a position where we've had a load of crap around us to be able to stay up with 30-odd points. Is it going to be the same this season? Perhaps. Southampton, Leicester, Ipswich. You're looking at three sides that I can't imagine all of them getting more than 40 points, or at least a couple of them getting more than 40 points. So perhaps a little bit lucky with that. But in terms of Sean's future, I find myself, there's a bit of a conflict in my mind when I think about, okay, if you got rid of him, that age-old question, who do you go and get? I'm more leaning towards what is he going to do? What can he do? If we can't get rid of him, and he obviously doesn't know that. Well, obviously he does know that. If he wanted to get rid of him, I'm pretty sure he's going to be sitting there thinking, "Well, they can't get rid of me. I'm untouchable because they can't get anybody, and you've got no one to sack me." You might be sitting there thinking that. I sincerely hope he's not. But,
yeah, you'd hope not.
No, exactly. But as a manager, you just can't operate the way in which he has done. And, I know we're going to move on to Southampton in a little bit more detail now. The substitution he made there was baffling to me, to take your only striker off and put Ashley Young on. And I understand he wanted to put Ndiaye up front on his own, which, again, that's questionable given the lad's about 4 foot tall. I think he's taller than you, Les. But, you've got that point where he did that, and then lo and behold, I mean, how much did you stand there thinking, there's no way Ashley Young scores this pen to keep us in the Carabao Cup?
I know. it was a nap that was going to happen, wasn't it? But yeah, so basically, let's go into the Southampton game then, because that was an opportunity to sort of, pick people up ahead of the weekend. We did well. It even brought back that Onana penalty to me, which was pissed off about again on Tuesday night. But all for that penalty kick. We would have been in a semi-final, and who knows what happens there. But this was an opportunity to have a run in this cup, because Southampton were. I said on the night on Twitter, it was the worst game of football I think I've ever seen. It was.
I think they made 10 changes, Les. 10 changes, I think they made from the Premier League game. And people correct that if I'm wrong, but they made a lot of changes.
And so this was a good opportunity to put out a decent side. Now, I know there were 4 first teams missing, weren't there, for us? So we did have Harrison Armstrong and we did have Roman Dixon and young players. But we just didn't ever really look like winning that game. It was just an awful game. Both sides should have got knocked out for me, because they were both shit. Neither of them deserved to qualify for the next round. But if you look at
it though, Les, I've seen a lot of people saying this. Do you think both of them were really particularly arsed?
No, neither of them were. Neither of them were bothered about that game at all. Which, when 33,000 people are turning up to watch it, you should be bothered about it.
I think also, Les, just on the point with Dice, it's probably a little bit of an easier win for him there. If he goes and wins that game, or we go and win that penalty shootout because it was a shit game, Sean Dice lifts the weight off him considerably before we go to that match at the weekend. The fact we've gone and lost 5 on the spin now, that makes him look even worse. The fact you've lost the game at home to a side that basically plays its reserve side and got a goal against us and won a penalty shootout.
And when you look at the team selection, so he didn't play Pickford. He played Pickford against Doncaster, which I think was to try and give him a little bit of a confidence boost because he was going through a bad time. He's still going through a bad time, so we should have played him in this. Now, Hal Virginia's a decent keeper. He played fine in that game, but he's not a penalty stopper. I remember being at Loftus Road a couple of years back and watching Begovic not make a single dive for any of the penalties. This penalty shootout performance from Virginia wasn't far off that. I think he went the wrong way on every single one except one.
I was going to say, like, as their players running up, it looked like he's trying to run off the pitch.
Oh, honestly. So there was that. That was a bit mad. The substitution was baffling. Beto was crap. He was rubbish. But one thing on him as well. So it's like he's always getting his shirt pulled. And I was thinking, this is too much of a coincidence. The players just pull his shirt. It's him. He backs into the players, grabs all instead of just getting on with the game, he backs in and grabs them, so they grab him back.
Yeah.
And it's like he's always trying to win the foul instead of just getting on with playing football.
Yeah.
It's infuriating. But he was crap. So taking him off, okay, fine. But you had no one to put in his place. As you say, and putting him up front and hoofing the ball up to him. What's the point? And not also, it took him out of his best position again, where, he was playing really well on the left again. And it took him out of that position. So it sort of nullified that.
Yeah.
Why not just play the two of them up front if you're going to do that? And then, it's just, the whole thing was just bizarre. But I think the thing that was sort of brought home to me in this game was the possession. Now, I'm not massively arsed about possession, and it's fine if you win the game and you have no possession. We beat the shite on a Wednesday night and we hardly touched the ball. Amazing. It's fine when it's like that. But that was 25-75 in Southampton's favour possession, right? And and within that, you've got to look at the passes and the pass accuracy, which is I'm boring myself with this now, but it's doing my head in. So we made 260 passes. They made 792. Okay, fine. They had more possession. That's going to happen. But our pass accuracy is 80% and theirs is 91. So if you're making 260 passes and only 80% are going where they should, if you've not got the ball, you've got to use it well when you have got it. And we're not doing that. If you're wasting 20% of your possession and you've barely got any anyway, you're not going to do anything, are you? And and this is a pattern across all the games. So against Villa, it was the same. We made 240 passes. They made 665. They had 90% accuracy. Ours was 75. So a quarter of our passes were going astray. And when you've only got 240, that's way too many. You're not doing anything with it. Last thing on this, Bournemouth, We made 349 passes, which is more than the other two games. They made 392. So neither team made many passes. And the pass accuracy from both teams was 73 and 76. So our pass accuracy was still crap, but so was theirs. So that's probably why we battered them for 80 minutes, because they were as bad as us. It's not sustainable, lads. You can't waste that many passes.
No.
And in the last two games, Villa and Southampton, we've missed 4 1-on-1s. So you can't waste possession that much, which is a team thing, and you can't miss that many good chances, which is an individual thing, really. Yeah. You're not going to do anything while you're doing that, are you? So that's although you can't blame the manager for those individual one-on-one misses, it's up to him to do something about it. He's got to make sure the players are in a position where they score those goals. So that's what's really troubling me.
It's a really interesting topic, this, because I was, if our listeners would remember back to last season, and since Dyche came in, actually, I was pretty obsessed with talking about possession and how we controlled the least amount that we had in games. I remember working out, it might have been last season, the season before last, whatever it was, Everton averaged about 33%, so a third of the ball when they were playing, and they used it remarkably well. We'd win games when we went on that 4-game win and run, barely kicked the ball, going back to the reference there to what we sing about that Liverpool match. He used it effectively because we were brilliant at set pieces. That's him. It's set pieces. Great, fine, happy days, Sean. When we can't do that, again, refer back to that question, what have you got? What is the alternative? And he hasn't got one. He just doesn't have one. If you're playing a side, you've got 2 6'4", 6'5" centre-backs. Everton, I put a lot of money on Everton probably not going to score a goal in that game if that's all we've got to do. And that's what I do blame Sean Dyche for. But you're right there. I think you're raising the stakes just by going into training saying, listen, lads, let's sit back, let the opposition have the ball, we'll get it and counter-attack. How good are we at counter-attacking? Pretty shit. Do you know what I mean? So he's watching them at training thinking, yeah, this one will work here. And I'd love to know what's behind his mind here with what he thinks is going to end up working for us at this point, because it's not the kind of scenario where he can test things. Do you know what I mean? It's not the type of scenario where he thinks, oh, I'll try that out, I'll try this out. He's never been that type of manager to do so anyway, let alone the situation he's going to be in. And this is where this goes round in a bit of a vicious circle for me, Les, because I'm not sure what he does with that possession thing. Like I say to you, I've banged on about it quite a bit, but I'm not particularly bothered because any team can sit there back against the wall and go score a winner. Just randomly refer back to Wigan when they went and won the FA Cup against Manchester City and had like 10% of the ball for 90 minutes. Yeah. Then went and scored the winner and won the FA Cup. Yeah. Football can work like that. And I don't doubt Dyche that is the way in which he operates. That's been the success in inverted commas that he's had being a Premier League manager for when he's kept Burnley up and he's kept us up. I mean, I don't know. I mean, am I going too far to say that we could get better than this? That we could be better than this? The initial question when we started the game, started this show, was about, have we got better in terms of the squad? Can we be doing better with the squad? I think it's emphatically yes.
Yeah.
Can we get somebody else different to Sean Dyche that can operate with a squad that's considerably better than when he's kept us up? I'm saying yes. And look, the age-old debate comes out, doesn't it, with Moyes free. And he's done a show, didn't he, with the Echo? I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah.
But he's this sort of situation, he's coming out looking like a white knight. Do you know what I mean? And each of the times when been looking for a new manager, we said, go and get Moyes, go and get Moyes, go and get Moyes. And I've shaken my head on it. I think many people have. I think not being like I know everybody to a T, but I think the majority of fans are saying, no, I don't want David Moyes back. Right now, I think it's tipped the scales a little bit to people thinking, do you know what, I'd rather have David Moyes than Sean Dyche. And that is where you're getting to an issue with Sean Dyche. People screaming at me saying he's got to go. What are you on about, Dave? I wouldn't even let him have that Leicester game, given how shit we've been. Yeah. When it gets to like that, when have you seen anybody win it back? When have you seen any manager able to get everybody back on their side? I can't think of many that have been able to do so. So that's why I think right now, if we go and lose against Leicester, take away the fact that we'd actually need someone to let go of them and whatnot, and the ownership, everything that's in the air, you'll start to see anarchy when we come back to play Palace at the end of the end of this month.
Yeah, it's shaping up to be a pretty table in a couple of weeks, and I think as has been mentioned as well. I think Paddy and Matt mentioned this on the byline. It's unlikely that a manager change will happen before the takeover happens, and the takeover is not going to happen anytime soon. So we're like,
well, I was sat there, yeah, exactly, that's spot on, and I was sat there thinking, well, you say we lose away at Leicester, which is perfectly considerable. Palace at home, it's Palace, it's always Palace.
yeah,
We lose against Palace there, and you've gone 6 league games without a win. You're out of the Carabao Cup. Sean Dyche is not going to be Everton's. Well, he shouldn't be Everton's manager when you get into October, and that to me puts the pressure on him. Us thinking that, and again, I'm just guessing here, but I think a lot of fans would agree with that. If he was to get to the end of the month, we haven't won a game. Sean Dyche has to go.
Yeah, we're drawing the unwelcome Mike Walker parallels again, aren't we? So you love
that. You love that. I love the way you always refer to that because it's happened so often.
Yeah, it was just exactly. But it was, back then, a dreadful start to the season. I think that was the season we went out to Portsmouth. They were in the lower leagues in the League Cup, and then the change wasn't made until the first game in November.
Yeah.
He said he turned it round. We beat West Ham, and he was like, "I've turned it round." Then we drew away at Norwich, and we beat West Ham. He's like, "I've turned it round." You can see something similar happening here. Well, no, because if he does that, he stays. But it could drag on that long quite easily.
I know we're going to finish now, but the narrative from Dyche himself as well, which we haven't touched upon, absolutely stinks. I think it's woeful the way he's managed himself. When I used to really like how much of a straight bat he'd give back to the media, some of the things he's saying now is really, really silly. He's making himself look like a fool, and that is something else that ticks that box of managers that are desperate to stay and that should eventually probably lose the job if they don't change this, is by the stubbornness that they're keeping when they speak. I mean, some of the nonsense he's come out with, it beggars belief. Well, it doesn't beg a belief because I think he doesn't have much else to say other than criticise everybody else apart from himself. But he hasn't made us feel comfortable, to say the very least, has he?
No, not at all. I think Matt's picked up on this a lot, hasn't he? It's like it's sort of there's definitely been a change within him this season. Now, whether it's because he knows he's on borrowed time because of the new ownership or because he knows he won't get his contract renewed, there's definitely been a change in him this season. But it's sort of, I don't know, people talk about Moyes coming back, and it's kind of the same thing, isn't it? They're managers whereby when they see themselves as the underdog and see Everton as the underdog, they're fine. When people demand a bit more, that's when they sort of go on the attack a bit. So Moyes was the absolute master at playing down Everton and playing down everything about the club to basically make himself look better. Look at the job I'm doing. It's great because, we shouldn't, we shouldn't be up there. We should be happy getting like 4th, 5th, whatever. That was very much his thing. And Sean Dyche is kind of doing the same thing. What am I meant to do? What are these expectations? Blah, blah, blah. So
the intelligence.
I agree.
There was a lot of intelligence with Moyes with that, though. He played it so well.
Yeah, he did.
Which ultimately was why I don't think Man United Sir Alex Ferguson, who went and got him, looked any deeper than what Moyes was the master of. It certainly wasn't going to the biggest club in the world, and they didn't have a mentality to go and do what he did with us. And he was able to develop Everton into a way that was dampened by the way in which he was able to conduct himself. In and around him. I spoke to him for years, and every time you go and see him, you'd expect something different, or you go there thinking he's going to say this, and he'd say something else that tempered things a little bit. And it's why I think he was so effective as the Everton manager. Look, I'm not an advocate of him coming back, but I think you get to a certain situation where you think, where else do you go? Where else do you look? He'd take it in a nutshell as well. He's got to win a trophy at West Ham. Look, I'm not sitting here screaming, go and get Sean Dyche back. Sean Dyche back. We'll be saying that if Moyes comes in.
Yeah, say that in 6 months.
Yeah, just keep them swapping games. But I think it's a food for thought in the very least to think about. That's all we're able to do. He come back in a nutshell, and I think it'd be pretty easy and comfortable to get him back in rather than going to a club and trying to get one of theirs.
Yeah, I think you're right. So, I mean, yeah, it's not all doom and gloom, but there's a lot of doom and gloom, basically. There are some positives out there. Yeah, let us know what you think in the comments. If you're watching on YouTube, or you leave comments on Apple and Spotify, can't you?
Oh, you can do it on everything these days. Yeah. We're miles behind the times with all that,
Yeah, just let us know what you think, or on Twitter. If you think we're talking shite, let us know. If you agree with us, let us know, or just let us know your thoughts.
Always in a polite way, because I don't want Keith getting abused because he's Scottish. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we don't need any of that anymore. But yeah, there's a lot of. Well, the game's only 2 days away. This feels weird doing it on a Thursday. The game's 2 days away, so we'll see where we're at then. So we've got mailbag coming up tomorrow. We'll have obviously post match. Matt will be doing a preview. Subs and a weekly coming up as well.
That's right, and then we've got Blue Monday in a few days as well.
Yeah, so we'll see you back here for that. Thanks for watching and listening. Cheers to Dave, and up those toffees.